Okay, this video is going to have a quick look at sugary drinks and the recent report by the British Medical Association suggesting that they need to be taxed. What they've actually done is they've called for a tax on all unhealthy food and drinks, including sugary drinks. They also mention not just that taxes could rise, but they mention other policies too. What we need to realise is that these sugary drinks, one of the problems is that they contain, for example, Fanta here is containing 8 spoons of sugar. You wouldn't have thought that your Frappuccino here from Starbucks is going to actually contain 11 spoons of. And this is a picture from America, where in Massachusetts they actually start to put the actual amount of sugar that you're getting in each of these different drinks. So it's a huge problem that needs to be addressed by the government, because obviously greater sugar is going to lead to the obesity crisis. Now, one of the things that we need to consider is what is it that actually affects the demand for drink. And the first one you might think is how thirsty you are. Another one might be the price of the drink, including any tax that you have to pay. Really quite important, that tax, because that's the thing that they're suggesting goes up. You might suggest that income is going to affect the demand for anything, which it will. What about the price of alternatives? So the demand for drinks, these sugary drinks, might be affected by the price of these alternative drinks. Advertising is a big one as well in this economy, and particularly in this market. There's a huge advertising campaign for these sugary drinks. And lastly, which really relies at the crux of economics, is any information that the consumer has about the benefit that the drinks will gain for us. So let's take a look at these in turn. Now, the first one you might consider is how thirsty you are, but really that's likely to affect demand only in the very short run. So if you go out on a sunny day and you get thirsty, then obviously your demand for drinks is going to rise, but it's not a major factor that we need to take into account when looking at the demand over any period of time. The price of the drink is obviously one of the key determinants of the demand, because that's what the government are thinking of putting a tax on, which will obviously raise the price in the market, hoping that the demand will go down. So as a major factor, and at higher price is demanded. So if you increase that tax, you're going to reduce demand. One of the questions with this, of course, is, well, how much? If these sugary drinks are quite addictive, as often they can be, then you might have to put a high price, a higher tax on than you might otherwise want to, in order to get the demand down a lot. Next one that we consider is your income. It's not a major demand factor for sugary drinks in a sense. There's argument that people with lower incomes might actually buy more of these types of drinks, because if you've got a lower income, then this is where you can afford only to buy quite sugary and cheap drinks with lots of sugar in it, whereas when your income goes up, you might actually start to switch for the drinks that are better for you. Big important point to think about is, well, what about the price of alternatives? Because actually, you see, they could try and get us to buy less sugary drinks by subsidising these healthy drinks. So healthy drinks, and remember, quite a few healthy drinks have a lot of sugar in them, but if you subsidise healthy drinks, then it makes them cheaper, and therefore we'll buy less of the sugary drinks. Advertising, as I said, is a huge issue, and one that really needs to be considered. The advertising budget of a lot of these companies is massive, and one of the questions with advertising, always try and remember, is it persuasive or is it informative? Really important, because if it's persuasive, then it can persuade us to consume more than we ought to, but if it was informative advertising, it might actually tell us how much sugar there is in each drink, and therefore that would actually help us to reduce our demand for drinks if we realised how bad they were for us. Leads us to think, well, should advertising be banned even? Some suggest that advertising for sugary drinks should be banned, like it is banned for cigarettes and alcohol in certain places. And lastly, the other demand factor is the benefit that you gain from the drink, but it's really the information that the consumer has. That's the important point here. How much information does the consumer have, and is it the correct information? You see, this is essentially why we pay money for goods, because we think we're going to get a certain benefit from the good, and so we will pay, I don't know, £1 for a drink if I believe that's at least the benefit I'm going to get from that drink. So the more the benefit that I think I'm going to get, the more I'm going to pay. But as I say, it's thinking. It's the more benefit I think I'm going to get, and that depends on this information that I've received. So the key question is, do I know the true benefit? And so some suggest that we should give better information to people about what these sugary drinks are doing to us, because in that way we'll actually then react to that and buy less of them. So I hope that makes sense. It's a quick run through of the factors that affect the demand for these sugary drinks, but also it leads us on to think about the policies and to think about which are the best policies to reduce that demand.